We're going to talk about different kinds of lighting now, not just why, but what we would use and how we would talk about it. So the first kind of light is called a key light. It's also a main light or the primary light used to light something. It's normally the brightest light that's on the subject and often can be used for very moody kind of or dramatic kind of images all by itself. The example that you have below has a key light. That light has a yellow polygon coming off of it or a yellow shape. That's just representing the light that's shining on the subject, which is representing a person. It has like a circle with an oval under it. Well, that's could be an apple or, again, a person or many other kinds of things. The idea from this description is that you're up above looking down at the camera, the light, and that object. Here's an example of somebody shot with a key light and just a key light. You can see that all the background is dark. And then when you look at the face, you can see that part of it is in light and part of it is in dark. Well, that part that's in light also has what's called a highlight, or it's the brightest spot on the face. And that should be on the forehead in this case. And that's showing where that light is coming from. So if you were to take an angle from the light to where the camera is, that angle is going to be showing where the light is. So for example, in this case, where do you think the light would be coming from as it's shining on this girl? There's also another way to tell, and that's by the shadows. So here you have this gentleman with a single light, which is called a key light or a main light, and that's shining down on the man's face and his chest. And what you can see right away is that there's a strong shadow shape on his nose, or by his nose, that shows which side the light is coming from. Which side is the light coming from for this one? We've seen this image before, and again, it shows a light in two different positions on the same character. In this particular case on the left, you have it down low, and it's shining up. And when you see the eye socket, or where the eye is, it's really easy to see that this is very different than what you would normally experience at school or with any kind of normal lighting or ambient lighting. And it's very dramatic. On the right side, it's not quite as dramatic, but it's also just a single key light on this character. We've seen this image before in the why we're using lighting. And we have here a larger light than either of the last couple of lights. And that light itself is just bigger shining on the person. It also shows the shadow shape on the left-hand side of the person, and that shadow shape indicates that there's just one light, which is called a key or a main light. The second kind of light is called a fill light. Here you have that same type of description, and one is called the main light or the key light. That'd be shining towards the circle and the oval, which is the subject, and the camera. But then you have a fill light that's on the bottom side. And what that represents is an umbrella. It softens the light, so it's not as strong on the subject. The fill light often fills the shadow side that's created by the key light. Let me give you an example here. Look at our example of Beethoven here. You see on the right-hand side, it's just a key light. And you can see very strongly the reflection, which is the highlight, on the upper right-hand part of his brow. In the middle, you have a key light and a fill light. So in the key light, you have that same example that the one side of his face is lit. But if you look on the other side, the left-hand side of his face, you can see very clearly that you can see more of what's there. When you get to the third panel, or the one on the farthest left, what do you notice here? What else can you see? Can you think of what you might call that type of light? Often it's called a backlight. Sometimes it's called a hair light or a rim light or a side light. So you have the key and the fill light, and you have what's called a backlight, hair light, rim light, many of these kind of ideas. And it just is based on where exactly that backlight is. For convenience sake, we'll call it a backlight. And here you see an example again of a key light at the top, a key and a fill in the middle, and then a 3-point lighting system at the bottom. Notice the person's hair, and then on the bottom picture, it has her hair is lit differently than it is in the other two. That's again called a backlight or a hair light. Here's an example of lights used just one-on-one, so just one light at a time. First you have a key light, just like we've seen. Then you have the fill light without the key light. The rim light now has neither the key light nor the fill light as a part of it. It just has that one light, and you have a very dramatic pose. You can barely tell that it's what kind of person it is, but you can see the little bit of rim along the arm, the head, and the side that shows that it's shows what it is. Here's the final example in this video. This is made in order to demonstrate a photo that I will talk about in the next video. But here you have the 3 lights. You have the main light, which is C, D is a fill light, and then A is a side light or a rim light. And we'll look at the specifics in the next video.